You know, we tend to look at news from Congress as though what happens there is driven by forces that are purely inside Washington, D.C. It's understandable, right? You're covering stuff that happens in Washington, so you look around in Washington to see what explains what just happened. I continue to believe, though, that if you really want to understand why Republicans are failing again to pass their health bill, right? Why Republicans with Republican control of the House, Republican control of the Senate, and a Republican in the White House who would likely sign anything labeled health care, why these folks cannot pass the one thing they all agreed on and campaigned on, which was repealing Obamacare. Why can't they do it? I don't think that it can be explained in Washington. I think in order to understand that, you might also look around at what is happening right where you live. For example, take the 9th District in Virginia. It's represented by this guy, Congressman Morgan Griffith. He's a Republican congressman from Virginia. He voted to repeal Obamacare. His constituents say if the Republican health care bill becomes law, 62,000 people in his district, 62,000 of his constituents will lose their health insurance. To help drive that point home, they made him a visual aid. This weekend, Virginia Congressman Griffith's constituents spent their Sunday piecing together 62,000 little strips of paper, stapling them into a giant paper chain. Remember you used to make those in elementary school? Every link in their paper chain represents an individual person in that district who they say would lose all health insurance under the Republican health care plan to repeal Obamacare. 62,000. They pieced it all together. They laid it out flat across a football field. The whole thing clocked in around 3 miles long. Then they stuffed all 15,000 plus feet of it into bags, into trash bags, and delivered this chain to their congressman, to Morgan Griffith. Grassroots efforts against the Republican bill did not take the weekend off this weekend, leading into these dramatic developments in Capitol Hill tonight. Tucson, Arizona, you know how hot it is in mid-July? Tucson, Arizona, protesters braved just brutal heat outside of Senator John McCain's office. A few people even brought umbrellas with them to stay cool. Over in North Carolina, Congressman Patrick McHenry's constituents spruced up his office's road sign. You see his office is listed there at the bottom of the official sign, but now it's decorated with tombstones to remind him about people who could die in his district if they lose all health insurance because of the Republican bill. Also, here's a sparsely pocketed pocket of California where a good-sized group of people turned out to talk to their congressman, Paul Cook. When they found out Paul Cook's office was closed, they just stood downstairs chanting, "We'll be back, we'll be back." When the Senate got to work today in Washington, D.C., they could barely make it through the door. Protests started in the Senate atrium in Washington, D.C., people chanting their stories about how Obamacare helped save their lives. Capitol Police gave their first warning to clear the area. The protesters sat down on the ground. Police started rounding them up. They folded up their banners, made arrests. Some people did make it upstairs, though. About 15 activists crammed into Nevada Senator Dean Heller's office. They wrote him a song to the tune of "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow," except they changed the words to "You should vote no on Trump care." The rhymes are a little strained, but I get it. Over at Ohio Senator Rob Portman's office, protesters were slightly less jolly. They were yelling, "Your job is on the line. Your job is on the line." Eventually, they were kicked out of that office. They parked themselves on the floor right outside the senator's office door. Police made more arrests there, including this woman in a wheelchair who kept chanting as she and her friends were put in zip ties. More than 30 people were arrested at the Capitol today. While all that was going on, a group of young kids with disabilities also doorstopped a bunch of senators at their D.C. offices. They call themselves the Little Lobbyists. They carry around this big binder full of stories about kids who have stayed alive because of the health insurance they've got through Obamacare. They took that book all over the Capitol today. Nobody from Senator Heller's staff was able to meet with the Little Lobbyists, but to the senator's office staff's credit, they did give the kids ice cream, which is awesome. After enduring this face-to-face pressure, this kind of intense pressure from their constituents for weeks and weeks and weeks, both at home, in their home states and home districts, and also at their offices in Washington, D.C., the floodgates really did open tonight. They had 2 no votes before tonight. That's all they could spare. Now we're up to 4. 4 members of the Senate who say they're firmly against the bill. That means that Mitch McConnell is not going to pass this thing, not unless he changes 2 of their minds and doesn't lose anybody else. So what happens now really is anyone's guess. This is really big news tonight. But I got to tell you, one constant throughout this entire process from the very start has been how the majority of this country really strongly does not want the Republicans to do this. And these protests have been relentless. And they're still planned, more of them are still planned, at the Capitol and all over the country throughout this week. But they've had a huge victory just tonight. Joining us now is Ezra Levin. He's a co-founder of the activist group Indivisible, which has been helping folks to organize all across the country in response to the Trump administration. They have taken point in as best they can, really, when it comes to this health care bill. Mr. Levin, thank you for joining us on short notice tonight. I appreciate you taking the call.
Rachel, thanks for calling me.
So let me ask just you've heard my take on why this is big news tonight and where I think this comes from. As somebody who's been really involved as these indivisible groups across the country have mobilized so aggressively on this, are you seeing this tonight as a victory? Are you cautious in viewing what's happening here? Do you think you've won?
So this is absolutely a win, and I think the way you framed it, Rachel, was absolutely right. The change is coming to Washington. It is not starting in Washington. We are, as of Thursday, 6 months into the Trump presidency. There is a unified conservative Republican government, the likes of which we have not seen in over a decade, and yet they have yet to pass a single significant piece of legislation. That's not because they don't have control of the government. They do. It's because the people are against the agenda they're pushing. And it is amazing to see. Tonight is indeed a big win. It's not a final victory, but it is a huge win, and one that groups across the country have been working towards and will continue to work towards. And that's like you were covering, really just all across the country. And that's the inspiring thing to see, is people standing up on their home turf and making their voices heard.
And Ezra, that has been the core of the idea behind the Indivisible movement, is that wherever you live, you should be contacting your own representative, your own member of Congress, your own elected officials, because they only really want to hear from their own constituents. That's why there have been so many calls all across the country for town halls and any other meeting, any other forum where representatives have to look their own constituents in the eye. Given that that has been really your focus on the Indivisible side of things, what do you make about the direct action tactics that we're showing on the screen here, and that we've also been focusing, just people doing sit-ins, people doing die-ins, people protesting, people getting arrested? How does that integrate with the kind of work that Indivisible has been doing?
So I have a huge amount of respect for the groups on the ground that have been carrying these out. They've been Indivisible members. They've been National Adapt and Planned Parenthood and Move On and Ultraviolet and others. This is a direct part of this strategy, which is shining a light on exactly what Congress is doing. I think one of the interesting things we've seen over the last several months is Republicans aren't holding town halls. They're not actually facing their constituents, or very few of them are. And so what we're seeing in response to that is people saying, look, if you're not going to come to me, I'm going to come to you. And they're going to the district offices. They're going to other public events with the senators or representatives, and it's working. Senator Moran ought to get a lot of credit, because he was one of a couple of Republican senators, who held a town hall over the July 4th recess. He held it in a very tiny town in Kansas, Palco, Kansas, with population 277. 150 people showed up at that town hall, including Kansas City Indivisible and others who made the trek out there to talk to their senator. That works. Showing up and doing sit-ins works. Staging die-ins to illustrate the effect that this bill is going to have on their constituents, that works. It's about putting pressure on the senators and letting them know, hey, we're watching you. So I love seeing that.
Ezra Levin, co-founder of Indivisible. Thanks for talking to us tonight, Ezra. I know it's a big, busy night with this breaking news. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Tomorrow's a big, busy day. It's a national day of action. People should keep this pressure on, and we'll kill this bill dead.
Ezra Levin, again, Indivisible co-founder. Again, we are absorbing this news tonight that the Republican effort to repeal Obamacare appears to have fallen apart. As you just heard Ezra Levin say there, one of the groups, he's a co-founder of one of the nationwide networks of organizing, nationwide organizing efforts that's really been trying to stop the Republican effort to repeal Obamacare. You heard him say there that this is not over, sort of cautiously optimistic. But 4 Republican senators now saying they will vote no is definitely enough to kill it if those 4 no's hold. I, for one, was not expecting this development tonight. We're going to be talking with one of the Democratic senators who has been leading the fight against the bill on the Democratic side of the aisle, get his perspective on how final this victory is and what needs to happen in the days ahead. Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut is going to join us live next. Stay with us.